with a compelling perspective on global politics. This is the Patrick Henningsen Show on TNT Radio.
Welcome back, folks. I'm your host, Patrick Henningsen. Welcome back to this live broadcast. Great discussion with journalist Sam Husseini in the first hour. Fantastic insights from Sam. We hit a couple of big stories there. The U.S. election cycle, the Yemen impeachment angle, which is extremely interesting, and the International Courts of Justice, the case lodged by South Africa, waiting for an interim decision right now. I want to cut over, however, to our intrepid correspondent, Basil Valentine, joining us on the line right now. Basil, how are you today?
Very well, thank you, Patrick. Back in blowy Blighty. I came back to a hurricane here in the wonderful United Kingdom, but it's great to be back nevertheless.
I'm sure the weather is absolutely stunning in England, as it normally is in January and February. Stunningly gray,
right.
Stunningly wet, and
That's
stunningly
right.
cold. Yes,
that's right.
So
but anyway, we're not here to talk about the weather.
No, definitely not. No, that's Joe Bastardi's job on Weather Watch with TNT. That's not a plug
That's
for you,
right.
Joe, but why not? Why not? Basil.
We're here to talk about the political weather.
Yeah, the political. What is the political weather report right now, Basil?
I think it's even more stormy than the meteorological weather here in the UK. It really is absolutely extraordinary. I mean, what we've got, and this is self-evident from social media more than anywhere else, is I don't think I've ever known a time where opinion around a particular subject was so polarized and where there was so little common ground as there is over the whole Israel-Palestine situation at the moment. Now, it's worth saying, first of all, on top of that, that the Israel supporters are in a small and diminishing minority. The rallies and demonstrations, and there was a so-called anti-Semitism rally in Manchester at the weekend, attract tiny numbers of supporters. And as Jackie Walker pointed out on the X platform, they are essentially simply pro-Israel rallies. They're nothing to do with hatred of all Jewish people, far from it. And they look like neo-fascist rallies with a combination of Union Jacks and Israeli flags, and an altogether sort of rather more uniform appearance to the attendees. If you look at the pro-ceasefire rallies, that there have been innumerable all over the world, particularly in the United Kingdom. First of all, far more numerous, hundreds of thousands of people, and also very obviously far more ordinary people, families with babies in strollers, representatives of trade unions, of different interest groups, black and minority ethnic groups, a very large Jewish bloc at the ceasefire march, extremely inconvenient for the Israel lobbyists. And against that, you have to set this very narrow harder of opinion, sadly propped up by the United Kingdom government, of people who want the carnage to continue. And carnage it is, absolutely abysmal scenes of limp, crushed bodies being pulled out of the rubble after another massacre in Khan Yunis last night, which was designated one of the so-called safe zones, one of the places the Israelis told people to flee to. And hundreds of people were killed there last night. Now, I'd implore listeners just for a moment to consider what the news cycle would be and what politicians and talking heads would be saying and doing if hundreds of Israelis were being killed every night. We would be blasted from here to kingdom come with the condemnation of their killers, the calls for sanctions, the military intervention to stop this massacre. And yet, instead, we continue to hear not just a deafening silence, but a continuation of the mealy-mouthed endorsement of a genocide.
You're really fired up on this, Basil. I can tell a lot of people are fired up on this. How else can you put it? I mean, let's get beyond polite niceties here. It is just a completely out of control situation, and I think the important point is, with all that the world has seen, Basil, over the last 100+ days, you're seeing some of the worst casualty numbers in the last week in terms of death and injury. So the things are not winding down. And that's the shocking part about it. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. And very, very little pushback in the UK media. Andrew Fisher, former advisor to Jeremy Corbyn, said on the BBC on Politics Live today, and I quote, "We haven't imposed any sanctions on Israel. There's no arms embargo. We're still shipping arms to Israel. We're saying, oh, what they're doing is wrong. It might well breach international law, but here, have some more weapons to do it." That reference to it might well breach international law refers to the legal advice given to David Cameron, which told him that Israel may well be in breach of international law and committing war crimes. But he would not commit himself to that position when cross-examined by the Foreign Affairs Select Committee of the House of Commons.
No, that's true. That's true. And we're the backbenchers on this as well. You know, you could always depend on in the past, Basil, liberal Democrats, Labor, backbench or front bench. Where is the pushback right now? Is it visible?
That's right. Not really. The likes of Tam Diel, Tony Benn, these sorts of people in decades past, principled elder statesmen, men of peace. Instead, you simply have Jeremy Corbyn continuing to be smeared as some sort of anti-Semite or something. In fact, the chief rabbi disgracefully in a speech at the weekend, basically smeared anybody opposed to genocide as an anti-Semite. Now, we've seen this coming a few years ago. The seeds for this were sown with the political assassination of Jeremy Corbyn, and with the entirely specious claim that there was some sort of anti-Semitism crisis in the Labour Party when there was none. And it's an attempt to move the Overton window of the conversation about Israel and its crimes from one where we can legitimately criticize the actions of a nation state to one where that criticism is somehow perceived as an irrational hatred of a particular religion or ethnic group. I'm pleased to say the pushback against him has been considerable, but of course the title, Chief Rabbi of England, supposedly a spiritual leader, this means that I think he sort of likes to think of himself as a sort of protected individual who cannot be criticized.
Well, is it the same chief rabbi that made the comment that the proceedings in the International Courts of Justice by South Africa making a mockery of the Genocide Convention? I mean, that's the position, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. Similarly, Leo Varadkar, the Irish Taoiseach, came out today, because the Irish, of course, have generally the people of Ireland, having been colonized, there's no other word for it, by us, the English, for centuries, have a much greater, more acute awareness of colonization and what it means. So the vast majority of Irish people are even more opposed to the current genocide and not represented by their elected officials, although there are some notable exceptions in the Dáil. But he came out and said, how can Israel commit genocide when 6 million Jews were exterminated in the Second World War? So, that was one of the arguments.
That's not a valid argument. That's a complete non sequitur. I mean, it's so here's the piece that he wrote here. I think it's published in one of the British dailies. I've got it in front of me. Accusing Israel of genocide is a perverse moral inversion. If there is a genocidal force in this war, it must be Hamas. Incorrect use of the term will harm the cause of peace. That's a very convoluted and tenuous argument. I'm being nice there. It's, in my opinion, ridiculous. But this is so. Why has this been given so much media fuel? Basically, it's being platformed everywhere, Basil.
Well, the whole question of the media coverage of this massacre, is a separate conversation in its own. Owen Jones touched upon it in a very good article that The Guardian published at the weekend, where basically he sets out the fact that to media and politicians, Palestinian civilian life is worth far less than Israeli civilian life. It's as simple as that. The language used, the numbers of people killed, so on and so forth. It's very obvious that far more importance is given to Israeli civilian life. And that's an obscene situation. His comments were endorsed by the Scottish First Minister Hamza Yousaf, who said, speaking to Laura Koonsberg of the BBC at the weekend, that without a shadow of a doubt, people place different lives on the lives of Palestinians and Muslims during a BBC interview. So, meanwhile, of course, to reinforce the point, we've got Elon Musk and Ben Shapiro visiting Auschwitz of all places right now, as today. I mean, a really bizarre spectacle when you think about it, because, okay, they're at Auschwitz. Are they there because of what's going on in Gaza at the moment? One would assume so. They're drawing attention to what? They're drawing attention to genocide, or they're drawing attention to the persecution of not only Jewish people, but gypsies, disabled people, all sorts of other people who died at Auschwitz. So it's not clear what exactly they're supposed to be drawing attention to or why. It's really rather perverse, isn't it?
You sort of beg the question there that it's a very public political display that's going on there. It's being photographed, it's being filmed, it's being broadcast around the world. Elon Musk, with a very unimpressive individual, a fast-talking, sort of marginal right-wing pundit, Ben Shapiro, claims to be conservative, although it doesn't seem to bear out in his positions and policies, but extremely pro-Israel, an ardent Zionist. He's attached himself, stapled himself, superglued himself to Elon Musk in the same way that Rabbi Shmuley Botish, who is a big sort of tool for the Israeli lobby in America, and that's not my opinion, that's just everybody knows he's the Al Sharpton of the Israeli lobby in America. He superglued himself to Robert F. Kennedy about 9 months ago, and literally you can see the trajectory of RFK on this issue. It's nearly killed his campaign. But the Musk is interesting. You bring up a good point, Basil. This is an opportunity? What are they trying to communicate here? The natural thing would be, hey, look, we're here at Auschwitz. I'm here with my buddy Ben Shapiro, and I'm Elon Musk, and the genocide shouldn't be allowed to happen in the 21st century. We're here in solidarity with the Jewish community, and we're also calling for an end to the genocide in Gaza. Let's just put the issue of genocide behind humanity and move forward together in peace. Wouldn't that be the ultimate winning message, Basil, or am I just a little bit too utopian?
Well, no, I couldn't agree with you more, Patrick. Where are the statesmen, be they in politics or business, culture, influencers, or whatever these days? Where is John Lennon when you need him? Where are the men of peace? You're absolutely right. That would be a wonderful statement to make if you were visiting Auschwitz at this time. But it's obvious that that's not what Ben Shapiro has taken Elon Musk there for.
No, it's 100% political, and I challenge anybody to say otherwise, because quite obviously it is. And it is a little bit of a disturbing in the sense that Elon Musk is, there's a lot of accusations of shadow banning and suppression of pro-Palestinian posts on X, Twitter, and that there's algorithms at work. People have been posting the analytics of different accounts, showing the comparisons. It seems to be that's the case. It seems to be proven out by the data. If you go to a great account called Censored Men, a very popular account, by the way, he's done a sort of post on this, a collage of different accounts. Whether you agree with these accounts and their leanings or otherwise, whether you think they're conspiracy theorists or they're anti-Semitic or pro-Hamas or whatever, left-wing or whatever the epithet is, whether you agree with the political positions, it's undeniable that the engagement on these accounts is very high, but the reach and the visibility is very low. And if you compare that to other content on there, there's no comparison. So it's clear there's something going on. And has he got his marching orders? Has Twitter or X got their marching orders from Tel Aviv, from the Israeli lobby on this issue? A lot of people think that that's the case, and I can't blame them for thinking that. Basil Valentine, we're going to wrap up for the hour, but thank you for joining us.
That's what the meme artists are saying on X this afternoon, Patrick. Elon Musk being depicted as Netanyahu's pet, shall we say.
Send me those on DM. I'll retweet those. Send me those memes. We love memes. We love political cartoons. Thank you, Basil Valentine. Top of the hour news headlines coming up. We got a lot on offer in the second hour. Mark Crispin Miller, 2024 elections breaking down, interference, fraud, all these things coming up.